questions I get asked every time we have a visitor at the farm is, what is that red thing driving around the barn and how do you feed your cows? Well, they go together. This is a Lely Vector over my shoulder here, and it's currently in the feed kitchen filling with ration to feed to the cows. It is computer controlled and pulls commodities from commodity boxes that I will show you, and silos and mineral bins, and mixes up a batch of feed after it has gone out and driven the length of the barn and checked the bunk height for every section, and then it delivers the feed to the appropriate group. Feeding cows is incredibly expensive, and there are a lot of components that go into it. I will not try and explain the feed ration for a dairy farm by any means. I will leave that to the professionals, the nutritionists, but basically what we have been feeding our cows is corn silage and baleage in the form of baleage, and then they get a grain mixture from our local feed mill that has a variety of different components to it. We're always looking for ways to cut costs, so for almost a year now, I think, we have been feeding these coffee grounds, or coffee hulls rather, I called them the wrong thing. They are coffee hulls. They come from the hull around the coffee bean. We have a coffee company near us named Paul DeLima, and we purchased these from them in these gigantic cardboard boxes, and it's a cost-efficient way of adding some nutrients to our feed that's cheaper than getting all of the components from the feed mill, where they often have to bring pieces in from all over the country to mix up the rations that they serve. That's just one unique thing that we feed in our ration. Let's go check out the other. So here we are at one of our commodity boxes, and I'll show you these a little better, but this is brewer's grain. It's very wet and it stinks. And it comes from Anheuser-Busch, which is also local to us, right on the edge of our county. And they bring it in these long plastic bags that they dump it out of a huge dump trailer. We get about 30 ton at a time every other week. And we feed this to our cows as well, mixed in. It generates a lot of moisture that gets added to the feed, and it kind of makes a mess of our feed kitchen. But again, we're saving money. And it's nutritious for the cows, so it's been win-win for us. We get to feed it, the brewery gets to sell it instead of just having it be waste, and it benefits us all the way around. So the way our feeding system works, we have this feed kitchen. It has 4 of these huge boxes in it called commodity boxes. These particular ones are made by Ball Metal. Sorry, it's really bright out here and I had to step outside in order for the box to fit. They're basically like forage wagons if you do any farming. They have chain-driven paddles. They kind of slide across the floor and slide the feed up to the front where it gets knocked down out of the box onto a conveyor belt. We put corn silage in one. We put a baleage mix in 2 of them, and we put the brewer's grain in 1 of them, and all 4 components go into our rations. So this is the front of the commodity boxes, and there are augers that knock the feed down onto the conveyor belt, and the conveyor belt runs the length of the room and then up and out, and it drops into the Vector, which you already saw. One thing I forgot to mention is that we fill these commodity boxes every day with a skid steer. We drive up to the back of the box with, say, the corn silage, and we dump it in here. It takes us a few hours every day to mix up the hay and fill each of these 4 boxes. While I'm back here, I'll show you. Sorry about the muddy mess. It just happens. But that is the bag that the brewer's grain comes in. And then we have our corn silage bags over here. And you can see the ballage in the background. And all the fun mud. When we were looking at the Vector, I mentioned that it pulled components from the commodity boxes and also bins. So these are our 3 bins. We have the grain that's fed to the cows in the robots in one of them. We have their PMR, which is their grain that gets mixed in with the silages. And then we have a pellet grain for our dry cows. And they all go through, fed into the building in those augers and those white pipes, and get dropped into the top of the Vector just like the silage was a minute ago. And here we are. That grain is actually being dropped into the Vector right now. And the auger, the vertical screw that is in the Vector, is mixing this up right now. It'll mix for about 10 minutes once it has all the components in it. And then it will head on out into the barn to deliver to the ladies. Our milk cows receive about 10 to 11 full loads a day. It checks their bunk every hour to make sure enough feed is fresh feed is kept in front of them. There's those coffee hulls being mixed in. So yeah, we did taste them when they came because they smelled great. They smell like the best coffee. I would not advise doing that. They were terrible. It was basically biting into a mouthful of sidewalk chalk. Super gross. But the smell made it so tempting. Yesterday we had the vet here for a herd check. That's when they come and check several of the cows to determine their pregnancy status, if they're pregnant, and when their due date is. And while they're here, we have them check a couple extra cows that might not be feeling so well. And our friend here, Lotus, was not feeling so hot for several days. We had been treating her. We thought she was ketotic, but she just wasn't turning around. So we had the vet look at her. So I want to show you Lotus today, because she is feeling okay. She's not real happy with me right now because I woke her up and I'm about to take her to get milk. But she has been eating, she has been drinking, she's been on her feet, and she is doing all right. She is completely dissatisfied with me in this moment, but she will get over it. Won't you, Lotus? Get over it? She's probably a little sore. So I'm going to show you what happened, but I first wanted you to see that she is okay. In fact, she is much better than she was feeling before the vet was here. As it turns out, she had what's called DA, a displaced mason. It is a stomach issue, if you will, that their stomach, portion of their stomach gets twisted, and they're not able to absorb the nutrients or pass the food from chamber to chamber like they normally would. So they don't feel so hot when they can't get the nutrition that they need. They can't eat much, they hurt, they're uncomfortable. And a surgery is required to put it back in the right place and use a couple stitches to kind of tack it so it'll stay in place. We provide a clean straw bed for the vet to work. They're sedated. It is very much like a human operation. They're sedated, and then we lay them down and we attach ropes to their feet and tip them up on their back, because the surgery actually has to happen on their stomach, so they have to be upside down so everything ends up in the right place for the surgery to happen. And she's telling you, I'm not happy about it, but I will get better now. So she was sedated, the area was numbed, and then they cut them open and put a couple of stitches in, and then very nicely stitch them back up, and we keep them in this nice clean straw pen while their stitches heal and they recover. And I gave her some aspirin so that she was a little more comfortable throughout the day today. And like I said, she's been up and eating, so I wanted to show you first that she's doing better before you see next how it went yesterday. What do you think, Lotus? You feeling a little better today? Dr. Sproul get you all patched up? I'd say so. Huh. Feeling a little better? Wow. Yeah, that was a lot, huh? Little surgery, vet check. We also had 2 calves born yesterday, so the animals kept a few of us working here crazy busy yesterday, but it happens. Now it's back in the barn for tonight's version of chores, which we've been rotating through, a few of us, but almost done. So that means